Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have round 9 of Beccas Bookopoly. If you are unfamiliar with Bookopoly, it is the game that I play every single month to pick my monthly TBR. If you would like to see a full tour of the board and find out all of the rules for this game, I will link my first ever Bookopoly video up here so you can go find out all of that information. However, if you are familiar with Bookopoly and you are a regular here, we're just going to get straight into it. Now, last month we did do things a little bit differently. I took a break in August and removed the punishment aspect of Bookopoly. So even though I did not manage to finish all of the books on my August Bookopoly TBR, there will not be a punishment for this 1 month. However, even though we removed the punishment aspect, I will still show you all of the books I was supposed to read in August and let you know whether I actually managed to read them. So in August I did have 5 books on my Bookopoly TBR as well as an extra one, which was the punishment book for not finishing my July Bookopoly TBR. I have not started this yet, but I still have 4 days of the month when I'm filming this and I definitely intend to get this one done. Aside from that, we have Gemina by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan, Dead to the World by Charlene Harris, Startled by His Fairy Shorts by Louise Renison, and Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. At this point I have read Gemina, Dead to the World, and Startled by His Fairy Shorts. I'm currently halfway through Six of Crows, and like I said, I do intend to read The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. So the only book from this stack that I have not finished or even started will be Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. So in the month of September, I have quite a few things going on. There are quite a few books that I do need to read for my own book club and live shows, etc. And I do also have a couple of buddy reads. I do also have the Subathon coming up right at the beginning of September, and I will be going to the J. Kristoff signing and Dark Dawn launch. So essentially there are a whole bunch of books that I need to read. I'm hoping that if Bookopoly is not kind to me, it at least allows me to fit a lot of the books that I have to read into my TBR. But I think that is enough babbling, so let us get into our first roll. So last month we ended on Young Adult Fantasy. First roll. 8. Adult Fantasy. So roll number 1 landed on Adult Fantasy, and that is excellent news because as usual I have a lot of Adult Fantasy that I need to be getting through in September. So considering what I said just a moment ago, I think that you guys will probably already know that the Adult Fantasy book I'm going to be reading in September is going to be Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff. Now there are other Adult Fantasy books that I do need to be reading in September that I should probably prioritize, but I am not sleeping on Dark Dawn. I am reading it as soon as it is in my hands. So Dark Dawn will be my first priority read for September. Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff is the long anticipated final book in the Nevernight Chronicle, which is one of my favourite series of all time. It was supposed to be released this time last year and it was pushed back a whole year, so I have been waiting for this for a very long time. I am very excited. I just reread Nevernight. I'm going to be starting Godsgrave very soon. Dark Dawn is my number 1 priority. This is my most anticipated release of 2019, as I'm sure you can imagine. The Nevernight series follows 16-year-old Mia Corver, who when she was around 10, I believe, she saw her father hanged for treason and her mother was taken away and locked up with her baby brother. Mia found out that she was a Darkin, which is somebody who can harness the darkness and can have shadow passengers, which are kind of like shadow pets. At this moment when all this was happening, she found out that she was a Darkin and her shadow pet Mr. Kindly helped her escape. After that, she was taken in by a kindly old man called Mercurio, who then prepared her to join the Red Church, which is an exclusive school of assassins, so that one day she would have the skills and the abilities that she would need to avenge her parents. As you guys probably know, I absolutely love this series. I love anything that J. Kristoff has written. I love Mia, I love Mr. Kindly, I love all of the characters in this series, and we find out right at the beginning, like in chapter 1 of Nevernight, we know that things aren't going to end well. We know that there's going to be some trauma and some chaos in that final book, and I'm not ready for it, but I need to know and I need to read this before I get spoiled. Second roll. 5. Science fiction. So roll number 2 was a science fiction, and I am so glad for that because I will be reading another J. Kristoff book, and that will be Obsidio by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. So this is the final book in the Illuminate files, and thinking about it, I think September is going to be a really sad month for me if I'm finishing all of the J. Kristoff series, because that man is not known for holding his punches, let me tell you. So fun fact, you won't have seen any of my vlogs yet, my Rome vlog or the consecutive one, but this was actually a gift from the lovely Mara, so thank you very much Mara for gifting Obsidio to me. However, as I was in Rome last week, I did not receive this package until I arrived back home, and I I actually purchased myself a copy of Obsidio whilst I was in Rome. So I now have 2 copies, which means that I will be annotating one of them, which is actually really good because I did want to annotate Illumine or Gemina, but because they're such nice like mixed media editions, I didn't want to ruin them with highlighter and pen. But now that I have 2 copies, I will happily annotate one of them. So thank you again, Maura, for the lovely gift. So for those of you that don't know, Obsidio is the final book in the Illumine files, which is a young adult science fiction series that is told entirely in mixed media. I have been reading this series physically whilst also listening to the audiobook, and I would highly recommend that route because the audiobook is a full cast with sound effects, so that really enhances the experience. But then we also have all of the nice visual aspects which also add to the story. So the plot of this is that we start off with 2 teenagers who have just broken up when their planet is attacked by this evil corporation. A lot of the people on the planet do manage to evacuate, including our 2 main characters. However, the fleet of survivors is being pursued by an enemy ship, and at the current speed that they are able to travel, the survivors are not going to be able to outrun the enemy. Essentially, the main goal is that the attackers are trying to eliminate all of the survivors so that nobody ever finds out that this attack happens, and the survivors are doing everything they can to make sure that word gets out and that everybody knows what this corporation did. In each book we follow different main characters. I believe that in this one we follow the cousin of Katie Grant, who is the main character of the first book. I'm very excited to see how this wraps up, but I'm also going to be a little bit sad as well because I've pretty much binged this series, and when I'm reading them I can't get enough, so naturally I will be sad when this is over. Third row, a double 5. Read a library book. So for roll number 3, we rolled double because of course we did. We can't escape doubles 2 months in a row. It's too good to be true. But we did land on read a library book. Now I do have quite a few books out from my library at the minute, but I have gone with the one that I think I've had out the longest, and that is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. I always struggle with that name. It has a lot of M's in it. So I essentially picked this up because it was recommended by Lala from Books and Lala, and this is a collection of short stories which you guys know isn't really my favorite. However, this particular short story collection I believe focuses on women and the struggles that women face. There is a line in the blurb, if I can find it. Startling stories map the realities of women's lives and the violence visited on their bodies, both in myth and in practice. So it is all about women and women's bodies, and I do think that this will be a hard-hitting and impactful collection of short stories. I have been putting it off because I don't love short stories, but it is about time that I read this one. Fourth row, 9. Read a contemporary or a romance. Role number 4 is to read a contemporary, which is actually perfect because, as I said at the beginning of this video, Sobathon is happening right at the beginning of September, which is a readathon that I am co-hosting, which is centered around books that you think will make you cry. Now, the group book for this round of the Sobathon is Girls on the Verge by Sharon Biggs Waller, and this is a contemporary story that follows a young woman who has discovered that she is pregnant. She would like to have an abortion, but it is illegal in the state that she lives in, and so she goes on a road trip with her friends to a neighboring state where she is able to have an abortion. Now obviously this is a poignant topic in the US at the minute, with a couple of states making abortion either illegal or extremely difficult for women to obtain. It is definitely a topic that I'm very passionate about. Obviously with me living in England, I'm living in a very different environment where we have very different laws regarding these things. I think that this book will also be great to give me some perspective on what the situation is actually like over there at the moment. Roll number 5, 8. A young adult fantasy. Role number 5 is to read a young adult fantasy, and for this I will be reading Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. You guys probably aren't surprised. I have been buddy reading the entire Grishaverse with Jade from JD Ray Reads, and Crooked Kingdom will be the book that we are buddy reading in September. I do not currently own a copy of Crooked Kingdom, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I am currently halfway through Six of Crows. If I give Six of Crows 5 stars, I'm going to pre-order the collector's edition of Crooked Kingdom, because I may as well if I need a copy to read in September, as the collector's edition is released on September the 5th, so it will come in plenty of time for me to read it at some point in the month. Crooked Kingdom is the 5th book in the Grishaverse, but the 2nd book in the Six of Crows duology, and Six of Crows follows a group of 6 young criminals led by Kaz Brecker, who are planning a heist to break a man out of prison who has developed a drug that is both very addictive and very dangerous to Grisha. The Six of Crows duology does have a lot of diversity. We have fat rep in there, POC rep, disability rep. We also have representation representation of victims of sexual assault. I'm really enjoying Six of Crows so far. It's a very character driven book. I really enjoy character driven stories as long as the plot pays off at the end, which I believe it does. So fingers crossed, I will give Six of Crows 5 stars, and then we will be on to Crooked Kingdom. And what will hopefully be our last row, 5. Which is another adult fantasy. And then finally, our final roll number 6, we landed on adult fantasy again, which is actually great because if you remember, I said I have a couple of adult fantasy books I need to prioritize this month. And one that I really do need to read is A Feast for Crows by George R.R. Martin. If you guys have been here for a while, you will know that I am hosting a read-along of the entire A Song of Ice and Fire series. A Feast for Crows was technically the book for July and August. I am obviously a little bit late starting it. Please keep an eye out on the Twitter and also my vlogs to find out what the date for the live show of this will be. I'm thinking it will be towards the end of September because quite a few of our hosts have things going on this month. But this is the 4th book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. It took me a minute to figure out which one it is because in the UK they split some of the editions in 2. So this says it's book 5, but it's actually book 4. And as this is the book series that Game of Thrones is based on, I'm not really going to give you a synopsis of it, but it is an adult epic high fantasy with multiple perspectives. It has a lot of politics and it's known for being very brutal. A lot of characters die when you don't expect it, etc, etc. Even if you guys aren't totally familiar with Game of Thrones, you will probably have heard of it in passing, but yeah, obviously I do need to read this one in September as I will be doing a live show on it. So those are all the books that I will be reading in September. I think I did pretty well there actually. We did only have one double and I have managed to get quite a few of the books that I would like to prioritize in the month of September into my official TBR, which is always good. If you would like to know what I'm reading in almost real time and keep up with how I'm doing with my Bookopoly TBRs, then please don't forget that you can check out my reading vlogs. I do create weekly reading vlogs and I have done for over a year now, and in those you will find out exactly where I am currently up to with Bookopoly and readathons and everything else. But I think that is it for September's Bookopoly. Please let me know which of these books you are most excited for me to read, although I'm pretty sure it's going to be Dark Dawn. Please also don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. That's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.